So to give you a little bit of background about our program, the Texas LL.M. and University of Alabama School of Law, now Culverhouse School of Law, really started in the mid-'70s. We've always been a distance education program, and by that I mean that there's never been an actual program here at the law school. So when it started in the mid-'70s, our tax professors basically got in their cars and drove around to various cities, Birmingham, Mobile. They'd teach for a couple of years, and then we'd move the location. And then as the technology evolved, we broke into the video conferencing, and so that captured the Southeast. We had as many as 20 sites going. People would drive to Chattanooga and they would watch on a video conferencing screen and communicate through that system. We had, Florida, Tennessee, and when the internet technology developed so that it could be synchronous, meaning live and interactive, that really opened it up to the entire country. And so I'll show you a slide in a minute, but while probably I'd say about 50% of the students are from the Southeast, the other 50% are scattered throughout the country, as well as our professors. Another advantage of the interactive online technologies is that we can hire excellent professor practitioners, meaning practitioners who also are writing in the area and teaching in the area at various law schools. So we can kind of handpick them. I call them kind of my dream team faculty for the program. We do have, of course, folks at the University of Alabama in the program, but Paul Carmen, the teaches partnership, is out of Chicago. We have professors from Arizona, California, Florida. So if you're interested in learning more about exactly where the faculty is located, you scroll down the bottom of the page, you see a link for faculty profiles. You can click that, and then this will show you, our outstanding faculty and where they're located. So I mentioned just a second ago that we offer an LL.M. in taxation and business transactions with a good bit of overlap. So you can see here tax and business. Let's just look briefly first at the tax. It essentially includes, both programs include a first year of required classes. So in the tax program, you'll take personal income tax, capital transactions, tax procedure, corporate tax, partnership, and then I teach a tax research class. After you complete that, we'll bring you into campus for the one required trip we have here for comprehensive examinations. And they're called comprehensive, but they're actually much more general than the course exams. At the end of every course, all the classes are offered online using the technology that we're using right now, and then you take an online exam. We don't make you put cameras on yourself while you're taking the exam, but what we do instead is we have you come after the first year, and these required classes, we have you take, old school, blue book, pen and pencil exams that would grade pass, fail. And the reason we do those comps really is more for authentication. We can say, well, we know these are the students that mastered the first year skills. Well, we can correlate grades and performance on comps, but it's not really that we worry about students cheating. It's just that it keeps the value of the degree high. So if people are say, well, you didn't have cameras on, folks. So, well, we brought them in, we tested them, et cetera. So we try to be as convenient as we can for you. At the same time, you probably already know you wouldn't be here, the reputation that the University School of Law has. So we want to protect that and protect the value, again, of your degree. In the tax program, after the first year, I say first year because most students do it in 2 years. It's theoretically possible to do it in a year. We probably have 4 or 5 students do it in a year. That's crazy if you're working at the same time, but it can be done. You can take up to 6 years if you want to, but what I generally encourage after the required classes is, in terms of the electives, we have a trio of estate planning classes, so estate and gift, income tax of estates and trust, and estate planning. If you take those 3 courses, then you're in good shape to do estate planning work too. If you're kind of new to tax, then the option of having business tax partnership and corporate, which you have to take, and then also the estate planning gives you another, hook in the water or client base to pick up on. But there are lots of other electives. I mentioned earlier you can take electives in our business program. You see some of those courses there. Again, I mentioned those, but stuff like M&A, IP, securities reg. We offer electives in bankruptcy, ethics, international executive tax, executive compensation, etc. You're not required. The orientation that we offer is online. You don't have to come for that. We do have a graduation ceremony that we'd love for you to come to, but don't require. So the comps weekend is the third weekend of July every summer. You come in on a Friday afternoon and you're done by Saturday afternoon. So just that one half weekend. If you're not able to come one summer, then just come the next summer. We'll administer them a couple of days early, but we can't deviate much from when we offer it because of the authentication issue. If somebody's seen the exam and could conceivably talk about it, it would kind of defeat the purpose. So that's something to think about as well. Looking for those of you that are interested in the business track, similar layout, the required classes in your first year: business entities, accounting, securities reg, IP, M&A, and then business drafting. We do also require a business planning class. I put it down there in the summer. Normally, students take that the second summer, so it's the very end of the program. We actually have bumped that up to the spring. So the way the scheduling works now is you can actually finish in 5 semesters. So you'd start in the fall, spring, summer, fall, and the end of the next spring you could be done. Similarly, you can take electives. You can take all the tax. The only electives that you can't get credit for in the business track would be the 3 estate planning classes because they're just not business classes. The other tax classes are arguably relevant to a business curriculum, things like corporate partnership, state and local, international. So again, if you're like both programs and you ask yourself, well, which one do I enroll in? I can't really answer for you, but I can tell you what I tell my JD students, and that's that if you're unsure, I would go with the tax. I think the tax, if you Google, should I get an LL.M, I think you'll see mixed reviews. You'll see people say, well, we don't necessarily pay associates more that have an LL.M, but they often always add unless it's in tax. And I think what's going on there is a specific skill set that they know they need and they want. For that reason, the LL.M tax is different from all other LL.Ms you might get, in my opinion. It is different in that it has credential value itself. So just the letters at the end of your name or title can help you get a job. I don't think that's as true with other LLMs. Now, the skill set is because, if you're looking to change jobs, the fact that you can draft M&A documents is valuable to a firm. The fact that they can bill you for that, of course, is value. It may help you get hired, but it's not the same as, just by putting LLM in tax, they say, okay, well, here's our tax guy or here's our tax woman. If you want to do the business, if that's what you're doing, business law, and that's what you want to do, then the business program is for you. But if you're uncertain, my recommendation is the tax program. Please feel free to interrupt at any point in time. I'll just kind of go through my spiel, but I'm happy to be interrupted. The classes. Let's look at the schedule. Yeah, you can type your questions. Let me give you an idea of what the schedule looks like. So even though we're a semester system, we found that students perform better if they could focus on one course at a time rather than 2, again, if they're on this 2-year track. So what we ended up doing was offering the 2 courses that one might take in a semester consecutively as opposed to simultaneously. So if you're in the tax program, you'd start personal income tax this August 19th. By joining in an online room just like this. It'd run on Mondays and Wednesdays until October the 7th, and then you'd take an exam. If you're in the business program, you would start business entities on August 20th, and you'd finish it on October 3rd. It would run on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So the second half of the fall, tax folks pick up with capital transactions and business folks pick up with the intellectual property class. So this gives you an idea about when your classes would be and when the exam would be. We offer a broad window, as broad as we can for exams, usually about a week. So you log in, they're usually timed somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. So you go in, click the boxes, type in a text box and click submit. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see, what else would we say? That's basically it for pedagogy. I mentioned that the classes run 5:30 to 7:30 Central Standard, except for the few 3 hours that we offer. If it's a 3-hour class, it's going to run to 8 plus whatever break the professor takes. So, some take longer breaks and some don't, just kind of survey the students. I think that's it in terms of the pedagogy itself. In terms of some of the logistics, the money issues, you can see, go back to our home page here and show you at the bottom, admissions and tuition. We can talk about that. Standard for admissions is likelihood to succeed. So yeah, we're going to want your transcripts for your undergraduate and your law school, we'll look at your LSAT as well. But so many of our students have been out and practicing for a while that their work experience is as valuable as their academics. So we say likelihood to succeed. If somebody's been doing estate planning work for the last 10 years, then that indicates a very strong likelihood to succeed in the program. It's a committee decision. I'm only one member on the committee, so I can't say you get in there you wouldn't, but we look at everything is the way to say that. The tuition right now is $1,653 a credit hour, $1,653 a credit hour. As a 24 credit hour program, that's just under $40,000. Sometimes the Board of Trustees raises tuition. If they do in the summer. In the almost 20 years I've been doing this, I don't think it's ever been more than 5%. So don't know yet for the fall, but don't expect a significant increase. So about $40,000 is what you expect. We do not charge, technology fees and all that other stuff. The only other expense you would have would be books and your visit for comprehensive examinations. We don't have scholarships per se. We do have a grant we have a new Juris Master's program, and I don't think that applies to anyone in here. It's for folks who don't have a law degree. Basically, their grant just equalizes the tuition between the programs because the Master's has to be a 30-hour program. We do have, or you can qualify and accept federal financial aid or deferring of existing federal loans. The requirement there is that you be a part-time student because graduate school is 9 hours at the University of Alabama. Graduate school is 4.5, or part-time, I'm sorry, is 4.5. So any semester you be enrolled at least 5 hours. So that satisfies that requirement. So if you otherwise qualify again, you might receive federal aid or assistance. My understanding, and Dan can speak to this if you have questions, is that she's not here, but looks like Jessica and Miranda could help you. The College of Continuing Studies, who partners with us in our online offerings, does have some scholarships as well that they offer.
Yes. So for the College of Continuing Studies, we do have our own scholarship for our distance learning students. And for those scholarships, students have to first be admitted to the program in order to go through the ones that we do offer and see which one would be most applicable for them, and then apply for the scholarship.
Okay. Okay. Anyone had a question? How many credits are required in order to LL.M, and what are the minimum credits per semester? 24 hours, I mentioned that. That's what gets you to about $40,000 after $1,653 per credit hour. There's no minimum. I mean, you're a part-time student anyway, so you can take 0 if you want to. Again, you just have to finish within 6 years from when you start the program. One, I guess, wrinkle if you decide to not be on the 2-year track. If you want to take longer, you say, you know what, I've got my practice is very busy in the second half of the fall. I'm just going to take one class. That's not really a problem, except that what most people do is they take the 6 required classes, first year required classes, and then they come for that first summer for the comp. So if you only take 3 of the first year required courses, you then have a question: do I come the first summer and take comps on the 3 courses I had, or do I wait till next summer and take all 6 together? And that would be up to you. Obviously, there are advantages and disadvantages both ways. If you wait, then the material might not be as fresh for the courses that you took 2 years ago, but the advantage being you make 1 trip instead of 2. So, did I miss any other questions here? Let's see. Sorry, I'm going to scroll back. Yeah, no, I think we're good. Let's see. So we talked about course exams. We could talk a little bit about academic performance. Being basically, it's a graduate school curve, so you got to earn a B. So the passing grades are A minus, B plus, and B. And then if someone were to fail a class, they usually get a B minus or a C plus. We do allow folks to retake classes. If it's a required class, you can retake it and try and get a B the second time. And if so, we'll substitute the grade. We do that because sometimes people are just starting back to school, or they're doing fine in the program, but one course just hammered them. And so they just want to take that one over. So we do allow that. I haven't allowed that for the elective courses, but we have on the required classes. So I'm going to take you back to the PowerPoints here. I think we discussed it. Maybe a few other of these things. We already talked about the courses to take. We talked about admissions. The deadline's May 1, but you know, don't worry about that because it's already May 1. You know, we used to say our deadline was May 1, and we found that we received over half of our applications after May 1. So we started throwing in the word priority, meaning we'd like you to go ahead and get your application in, but you know, frankly, we can take it up until as long as there's time to process your application before classes start. So you know, a week or 2 before that August 14th deadline. I'd prefer that you get it in early because there's things to be done. You know, there's orientation and setting up your email address and things like that. You've got to order transcripts. We'll make a decision based on unofficial transcripts, but you'd still have to send us the official ones as well. So if you're interested in applying, I encourage you to go ahead and do so. I'll give you another kind of behind-the-scenes tip since y'all logged in today. There's a app waiver code. It's May 1, so no space. You'll see it on the website for where the online app is. That code will work after May 1. So if you want to do the online app, you can just type in May 1 and it'll waive the $50 app fee. If you do the PDF, you're gonna have to pay the fee. But even after May 1, that code works. Let's see what else. I'm not going to go through this. So a lot of this is from my PR department here at the law school. This is not necessarily referring to the LL.M program, so I don't want to mislead you, but you're probably already aware of the brand of you know, our law school and rankings and things like that. So the LL.M is an important part of the program. Patty Nelson is the associate director. If you're in the program, she's going to be the one to handle your applications and help you with registration and things like that. So I included her contact information in case you had any problems, you know, getting in the app, or you had questions about transcripts, or really anything about the program. She can help you. Feel free to contact me directly as well. I'm happy for you to do that. And that's my contact. Dan included her contact, but if you have questions about the program, Patty or I are the best places to start. If you have questions about College of Continuing Study scholarships or things like that, would be Dan. Dan or anybody else, something that you'd like covered that we didn't talk about? Ryan's asked me to speak to networking opportunities students can get connected through the program. Yeah, that's a good question. As a point of background, when we used to have students participate via video conferencing sites, there was, of course, some camaraderie that they experienced by driving to a location. Sometimes they drive 2 or 3 hours. We had 1.20 sites throughout the Southeast. So, maybe people would meet in Birmingham or Nashville or Chattanooga or something like that, and they developed a bond with the other students in the room. We worried that when we moved to the online system, they would experience some isolation. So we've tried to do some things to encourage interaction. There is a website, a web page that we call our lounge, where we try and post information about students, where they're from, so you can network with other classmates. The orientation online is an opportunity to meet other students. Surprisingly, the comprehensive exams is a great opportunity to, you think you'd hear being stressed over tests, but we have a nice dinner, and folks kind of mingle around before and after some of the sessions and get to see each other face to face. So that required trip is also a networking opportunity, in addition to the student lounge that we call it. There's a Facebook page that's created as well. Students actually develop relationships in class. It's kind of odd, but I may often make the argument that the online classes are more interactive than in the building classes, and I think the reason is participation is easier. I mean, it's easier to type a chat message because you're not speaking out loud, and so a professor could ignore it if it's not the right time. You can send private chat messages to each other. If you just pick a person that's in the participants panel and you double click on their name, an extra tab opens up, and so you can chat back and forth. So the online class provides avenues for interactions, and sometimes people just kind of meet people in the class and get to know each other. We very much encourage that. We want you to feel connected to each other, but we want you to feel connected to the University of Alabama School of Law as well, because you are our students as much as the ones in the building. We're probably one of the few online programs that has remained largely synchronous, which that means live. I mean, there's a couple of pre-recorded classes, but, and I should have mentioned this earlier, we expect you to be in class when it's being offered live. We just find that students pay more attention that way. There's more back and forth, which enriches the pedagogy. So, we make exceptions, of course. You can miss up to 3 classes per course. If a trial or something, or in y'all's case, maybe tax day, April 15th rolls around, you're up on class and you need to miss one more class, you can contact me and work something out. But the courses weren't intended to all be recorded and then you watch them, at some other time. We do record all the classes, and you can watch them as many times as you want to, but we also want you to be part of the live session. What other questions? Oh, sorry, I missed these questions. Edwin says, does the business transaction LL.M include an arbitration class? We do not have an arbitration class. We contemplated that at one point, and we periodically will make a change to our electives. I usually send out a survey, and like we just added the ethics class. So if there's enough interest in a particular class, it's not a lot of trouble to add it, but we just have to make sure that we have the numbers to support it. But currently, we do not have one in arbitration. Okay, Kent. Hey, Kent, did you see the other material, the website, when I was going through the website? Yeah, like Dan said, we can send you a recording of everything, so that's no problem. And I'm getting ahead of myself. It's more, I'm already trying to solve tech issues for when class starts, but yeah, we'll need to take a look at that since you're in Honduras and make sure. Usually it's my best guess is it's an internet connection. You know, I mean, if the slides are moving slow, then it's not a strong enough internet connection. So there's some workarounds for that. I've been really amazed with this technology. I mean, we are just kind of talking and listening, but I can share my desktop. I can put you in breakout rooms. You know, most of the professors do a little polling device, so you know, they might type a question right here on the whiteboard or have it already typed out, and they'll have a an A, a B, and a C option, and then you'll see I've changed. There's some icons above where we're logged in. There's a smiley face, a person in front of a computer, a palm, and then there's an A, and you can click that A, and then it opens up an A, B, or C choice. So you can make your selection, and then the professor can go over the results. So I often make the argument that I think, particularly in the area of tax, these online classes are more interactive than a traditional in the building course because of the features. You know, you got a little bit of anonymity. You can just type a question. You know, you don't have to raise your hand and be exposed. You can anonymously answer one of these polling devices, and then the professor can you know, publish the responses there. And so it helps keep people engaged and interactive. Part of that's on you guys, though, too. We hesitated when we moved from video conferencing to online because the students really seem to enjoy the camaraderie from showing up at a video conferencing location where there are other live people in the program that they could talk to. So when we moved online, we tried to do things to foster that. We have like a study room. You know, you can join in rooms. We use a Facebook so you can see where other students are from. We do the orientation. There's socialization at the comprehensive exams. We have dinner and make you go through the Bear Bryant Museum. Okay, we don't make you, but we set that up, and you know, we try and do things. It's important to us that you feel connected to the law school because you're as much a student, or you would be as much of a student as the ones in the building, but also that you interact with each other and gives you a chance to do some networking and, you know, again, just keep people more engaged. So, but you have to do some of that. It's hard when students are working full time too, I know. So, what are the questions? 3-hour courses are Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. Yeah, so really all the classes are kind of, the cycle runs Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So let me pull that up real quick again and show you. I mean, you might have an elective that's on the different days, but for the most part, it's going to stay on the days. If you do the program in 2 years, it's going to stay on the days that you started. So let me show you that real quick, because I forget from one cycle to the next. I believe tax was Monday, Wednesday. So you see here in the fall, personal runs on Monday, Wednesday. So really all the tax required classes are going to stay on Monday, Wednesday, right? So you roll around Cap Trans, it's Monday, Wednesday. Spring, you got to take corporate tax, Monday, Wednesday. Then you got to take, in the second half, you got to take tax procedure, and it's Monday, Wednesday. Same for the business programs, or the opposite. So the business program in the fall, you start with business entities, and it would start, where did I go? Sorry. Tuesday, Thursday, and then you roll over to IP, Tuesday, Thursday. So pretty much, you know, you can stay on those days. What gets people off is the electives. Sometimes they want to switch around, so there may be an occasionally. But they all do start at 5:30 Central Standard Time. All the ones that are 2 hours, I said 7:30, but really it's not even 7:30. That would be if they took a 20-minute break, and they don't normally take a 20. So if they take a 10-minute break, then instead of 7:30, it's 7:20. So that's why I say on the 3 hours, folks don't usually like to run that late, so they run to 8, and then if they take a 5-minute break, it's 8:05, or 10-minute break, 8:10. So. But yeah, they're all that time. There are a few what we call asynchronous courses. Asynchronous courses just means that it's not live, it's pre-recorded. So The reason we did that, I'm very proud that we are largely synchronous, because if you look at any other, if you look at the other online programs, I'm not aware of any other LL.M and tax program like ours that is truly synchronous, because it goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this session. We've always been a distance ed program, so we don't have, classes in the building. If we did, then we would have to be concerned that in offering online classes, we might cannibalize the ones we have in the building. And that's what all the issue all the other programs have, where they have in the building, programs. They have to worry that if they offer it online, people will be like, well, why would I come to campus if I can just do it online? I mean, some do anyway, I get that. But the point being, what they end up doing is recording those classes that are already in the building and then putting it online for students to watch later. Our online classes, you are in the class live, so that's important to our faculty. So if you have a question, you don't have to email the professor after class. You use the chat or use the audio function to ask it. So that does, I feel like, make us unique. Having said that, we do recognize the convenience of asynchronous courses. So particularly in terms of the electives, I wanted to offer more electives, than necessarily we could support. So by having professors pre-record those lectures, I can make it available multiple semesters. So right now it's just a few. It's executive compensation and international are being pre-recorded, and then my tax research class that I teach, and then business drafting. And those latter two are asynchronous because you're taking those at the same time you're coming for comps, and it just seemed like a lot to make you have you in class 2 days a week and then you're coming here for comps. So those classes, they're also a little bit lighter too, to be frank, just because you're having to worry about comps. They're pass-fail. They're important classes, but they're the demands on your time is a little bit less since you are here for comps. But those are the only 4 classes right now that are asynchronous. Everything else is synchronous, meaning in real time. Any other questions? I'm happy to hang out. If you have some more personal type questions that you don't want to ask in front of the group, you can also send a private chat message. Just double click on my name there, Associate Dean Powell, in the chat box. It'll open up a tab and you can send me a private chat. But I'll hang out for a while. I don't have anything else. If Fan doesn't have anything, I thank y'all for coming, and again, don't hesitate to call us or email if you have questions.
Daniel, do you want to talk a little bit more about the orientation, whether they have to come to campus to attend the orientation or not?
Yeah, sure. I did mention that that it was online and they didn't have to come, but let me see. I may have taken that down. I have a little link for it here. Let's see here. Yeah, here's a little page that talks about it. I mean, really, once you're accepted, you can register for a live one. You can see, I went ahead and clicked that. The 2 live ones we have set up are Monday, July 15th from 8:30 to 12:30, or the second one, Saturday, August the 10th from 8:30 to 12:30. So if you can't make those dates, it is possible to view a pre-recorded. What we're going to do is record these live orientations, and then I'll create a pre-recorded orientation. I much prefer you to be live because you get to meet other students, and I want to talk to you and find out about your interests, etc. But it is an option. So, but there's a few other things here too. After if you're accepted, how you pay your deposit, and we do have a Facebook page. If you want to use that as a way to meet some newly admitted students, you can do that as well. Anything else, Sam? Everyone's asking about access to Lexis, Westlaw, and other. The quick answer is yes. I guess I would qualify that because we did have some problems with Westlaw in the past. Not that they were asking us not to do it anymore, but it can be tempting, and I'm not talking about you, Edwin, but it can be tempting to use some of those services for the job, and they have a way of kind of flagging, I think, that. And so we had a couple of students that used the databases, and that was a bit problematic. So, but you have to have them. I mean, for my research class, I take you through tax law databases, BNA, now Walter Kaller's products called Cheetah. So we go through those. You have access to them. I show you how to research sophisticated tax issues, and it is also possible. We have a independent study paper writing class where you can write a 10 to 15 page paper, and you got to have Westlaw for that. So yeah, we can get you those passwords for sure. Any other questions? Dan, I think that's all. That's all I have.
Thank you, Daniel. And we just want to be conscious of everybody's time and schedule. This would conclude the end of our presentation for the LL.M and taxation and business transaction. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for Daniel for giving us all of the information about the program. That was very informative and extremely helpful. If you have any further questions, feel free to type it in the chat box in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, or if you want, feel free to reach out to either one of us. Daniel will be the great person for you to contact if you have questions about the program. If you have need assistance with the admission process, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you if you have any need any assistance. Again, that will conclude our presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and Row Tie.